Hello and welcome to Meal Mentor Live. On this show, today we have Aimee, and so Meal Mentor we basically are a vegan meal planning business, vegan plant-based, and we basically help people lose weight by helping them plan their meals for the week. The business was started by my wife, Lindsay Nixon. She's written 6 cookbooks, and I'm Scott Nixon, and I'm her co-founder and husband. And so this is Meal Mentor Live is our customer interview series where we kind of show the fantastic results people have done by really just using our little tool, and then they do all the wonderful hard work to make their lives better. And so today we are, like I said, interviewing Aimee, and Aimee has been with Meal Mentor for 14 months and has had great success, 82 pounds on Meal Mentor. I mean, that's just, wow. It's just incredible. And so I'll let Aimee kick it off and Aimee, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started on the plant-based diet.
Hi, everybody. So I had made a decision to lose weight. I was 47 years old, and I had decided I was not going to carry that added weight that had served me well, but I wasn't taking it into 50, and I better get started because I didn't know how long it would take. And I started on one plan that was very high protein with a lot of meat, and it wasn't really working for me philosophically or really with weight loss. And I had been looking for a plant-based program that was high protein, and spent a lot of time searching on the internet, and had come across Happy Herbivore and Lindsay and the meal plans, and it just resonated with me. I needed the simplicity of the shopping list and the recipes weekly, and so it was literally the night before Earth Day, coincidentally, of last year, and I went to bed that night on the one plan. I woke up in the morning and I took my shopping list to Whole Foods and started Meal Mentor, and I haven't looked back, and this feels sustainable for me. And it's something that I'm going to just continue to do for life. Oh, I can't hear you, Scott.
Sorry, I had muted myself. That was my fault. I'm sorry about that. So that's incredible. You really did just like a whack one day to the next switch from, you said, like a heavy meat kind of protein-based diet to the plant-based meal. Wow, that's incredible.
I did. I just couldn't. The thought of eating another meat-based meal, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
And I think you had mentioned something about, like, in your pre-interview about, like, that it kind of like made you kind of nauseous eating some of that stuff too, right? So that's
the idea of it, and and the amounts. This is like in some, I don't want to diss the plan because it works for some people and that's their choice, and we all have our own path to take, and I don't want to judge anyone's path, but for me, it was too much, and just, I was sort of gagging at the thought of having the 5 eggs that I was going to have for breakfast that morning.
That's a lot. Wow. That's incredible. So one of the things I'll do an interlude and say, if you guys are enjoying Aimee's interview and the things she's saying, hit the love buttons and the wow buttons, and feel free to leave comments. We'd love to hear, get everybody to say like where you're from, so we, you guys can kind of connect and chat as we're going along in this interview. And so the next thing I want to hear a little bit more about your story around your results and what. Like you had fantastic weight loss results, and I've mentioned some of that briefly already, but I want you to go ahead and tell it in your own words.
Okay, so like I had said, I had started with the other program, and I had lost 20 pounds in like four months. Well, actually, I lost it in the very early stages of that, and then I didn't lose anything else. And once I started Meal Mentor, my body just seemed to be very, very happy with the program, and the weight just started to come off consistently. Folks in the forums that know me, they can see like really almost every week I was having a loss, and that was obviously very motivating, and I felt incredible. And one of the things that I noticed I've lost a lot of weight in the past, like with Weight Watchers, and people would kind of say to me, they'd ask me if I was okay or if I was sick, maybe that I was looking kind of unwell. And this time with Meal Mentor, people were like, you look incredible. You're glowing. You look amazing. You have so much energy. I see this light just shining from you. And that's really how I felt and continue to feel eating this way. So I feel like I look like a fit person and not a frail person.
Absolutely. I completely agree. You look great. Yeah.
And I really stuck very closely to the program. And it's funny, when I took the computer out of my bag today for the interview, here's my 2 potatoes that I brought to work today, in case I need a snack, because it's going to be a very long day. But so it just really works for me, and my body's been very happy, and the weight has just come right off.
Wow, that's incredible. Can you mentioned the group, and the VIP group, Facebook group, you said that's been very influential and helpful. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. Yes, the Facebook Live, the Facebook VIP group is just so wonderful. You can pop on with a quick question about a recipe or an ingredient, and really within minutes, somebody is invariably there to answer it. It's also a place where you can go with deeper things that might be more troubling to you, about whatever might be going on, because we all agree that there's more to this than just what we put in our mouths, that so much of it has to do with the way that we live our lives, the relationship that we have with ourselves, how we're feeding our souls and our spirits. And so the Facebook group is good for that too, because people are so generous in sharing their experiences, and they're so encouraging. It's really, there's other groups on the internet and in real life too, where people can kind of get a little bit mean with one another, and that never happens in the Facebook group, and also the forums. I know there's a whole group of people that don't use the Facebook group but use the forums, and that's also been a very loving and encouraging place to ask questions and to share your experiences.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's exactly why we want to do these interviews, is because it just kind of like hearing what other people have kind of gone through just makes it much more relatable, and it makes it much more like concrete, because I think a lot of people feel alone, and that's why these channels are even better, because these channels you can in real time get help from other folks,
and it's such a change for people sometimes, like coming from a different way of eating, a different lifestyle completely. And so you really do. I found that I really did need and continue to need support because it is a drastic change. And for so many, you might be the only person in your family or your friend group or your work colleagues that is plant-based.
Yeah.
Is on a weight loss journey, and so it's important to have friends and to be able to connect with people.
Yeah, I mean, I see it totally can be lonely and challenging to do that on your own. I mean, we've definitely seen that over the years with all the folks that we've talked to in the Herbie of the Week series and on these interviews. So yeah, I totally see that. You'd mentioned some of your struggles. Do you want to talk about some of that a little as well?
Sure. So while I was losing weight, I really, again, it was so fast for me. It just worked so quickly and so well that I don't really remember struggling too much. I do remember coming into some sort of, I'm calling them myths now, that these beliefs that I held about myself. One of them I remember coming up, it was that in order to be a good mother, I needed to be overweight. I mean, it was this or that to lose the weight made me a selfish mom. I mean, it was, so they didn't always make total sense for me, but these were myths that I was holding on to myself, about myself. And so I needed to kind of attack each one of those as they came up. So that was happening during the weight loss. And continues to happen every once in a while. I'll encounter a new myth, a new story that I tell myself. Currently, my struggle, because I'm pretty much in maintenance right now, and I have been since about December. My struggle right now is with stress eating,
Okay.
snacking. So I'll be, on plan for a couple of days, great, moving along, and then I, kind of go off the rails with chips and hummus on a night on a day that felt particularly stressful. So it's balancing out. I haven't gained anything back, but I'm not happy with that behavior. I'm not happy with the thought process or the lack of thought process that leads me to, to this chips thing that's happening occasionally at night. So that's something that I'm working on.
Yeah.
Trying to get a hold of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting thing because it's like I never had, like, if you'd asked me when I was 20 years old or 30 years old, like if there was such thing as like stress eating, or that like my emotions would drive what I would eat or any of my behavior, I was like, no way. So it's really interesting because you just think that like, no, it doesn't exist, and it is. It totally is, and it just takes a little bit of awareness and a little bit of self-reflection, and it's a fantastic thing to kind of work on. I mean, because I think there's probably if you're not thinking and working on these little behaviors and these little actions, it's going to be a lot harder to kind of consistently keep. You might get the weight loss, but then you got to keep it off, and Lindsay's very much like what you did to lose the weight is what you got to do to keep it off.
Absolutely. And I realized that with this stress eating thing, that the answer lies somewhere prior to the food reaching my mouth. It has to do with how I'm thinking about this stress, maybe reframing it. And Lindsay has provided so many tools just through the regular meal plan, the weight loss book, but also the blueprint program and all of the videos and things that go with that. So I just kind of have to keep revisiting those things and kind of attacking this from what's happening that causes me to stress eat, not necessarily keeping the chips out of the house. While that might help, there's work for me to do before the food hits my mouth.
Yeah, totally. One of the things you had said that I hadn't seen somebody say, but you talked about myth-busting began with Meal Mentor. Can you talk about that some more?
Yeah, so again, it started with some of those stories that I have in my mind about who I am, that I was an overweight person, or that in order to be a good mom, I needed to be, a certain way with my body type, or and it's kind of gone. I began to bust those myths about myself through Meal Mentor, and then it's continued to kind of roll over into other places in my life. And I was working. When I was about 90 pounds down total, I started working with a personal trainer, and I was like literally laying on the weight bench, and I was the story of myself not having any upper body strength, and here I am lifting weights on the bench, and I'm telling myself, you don't have any upper body strength. So, there's another myth busted about myself. Clearly that's not true. I can stop telling myself that story. And so it's just like uncovering these things that are working in the background, behind the scenes inside our minds, the stories we tell ourselves, and it's good to examine if they're true or not.
Yeah.
And I'm finding out that they're not.
It is interesting that we always have this inner dialogue, this narrative about like who we are, what we are doing, or so I totally see it. I think one of the most interesting things that when I was early into becoming a vegetarian was that I had this mindset that there needed to be like meat or something on the plate, and I finally it literally took like a couple of weeks, couple of months for me to just like stop looking for like this piece of meat or something like that on the plate.
Well, I always thought that I wouldn't feel good if I didn't have, a piece of chicken or that piece of meat with my food. And the meal plans helped me to trust that I could actually be fine and feel good eating just plants, a plant-based diet without the meat. I so I had this story that I would have low blood sugar or I would feel shaky or, but none of that was true at all. None of that happened when I followed the meal plans. So I'm learning how to trust that I can eat without that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Can I just, one of the myths that my weight loss happened so quickly and was so dramatic that it's taking my mind a little while to catch up sometimes. And so I sometimes, if I'm not really aware of it, I kind of revert to my overweight thinking about life and about food. And so one of the things I did was print out a picture of the way I looked a year ago, 100 pounds ago, and then several pictures of what I look like now. And I have that in a couple of strategic places so that I can have a visual reminder of the change that's happened.
Wow.
Because sometimes I forget, the internal me, that those dialogues, they forget that this has happened, and that's not who I am anymore. I don't make those same choices. So that's just a little.
That's wild. I got chills. I'm touched. So that's fantastic. I love it. It's little stuff like that helps people kind of tie things together and kind of reinforce their behavior. It's just
right.
We need those little mental interventions, so to speak. So that's wonderful. Oh shoot! I'm sorry. Can I get another? I think you would talk some about how you kind of prepare and customize your shopping, every week. And can you talk a little bit about your experience with kind of using the plan and kind of doing the shopping and customizations for yourself?
Sure. So when I first started, I would just print off the whole meal plan and shopping list and just followed that completely to the T. And that worked for a little while to kind of get me used to it. And then shortly after that, I began to develop, some favorite recipes that I wanted to redo, whether it was because of, taste or convenience in making it. But I kind of quickly developed my repertoire of Meal Mentor recipes that I could kind of were my go-tos. My family is not all on the plan with me. I have 2 teenage daughters and my husband. My husband will eat whatever I put in front of him. And then the girls know that they're welcome to have the Meal Mentor meals that week, but if they don't want them, they're welcome to make whatever they'd like. We use an app called Out of Milk to manage our shopping list, and they can add to that so that, I'll just buy those groceries for them so they have things on hand if they want to make them. And then I was using Pepper Plate to kind of put the Meal Mentor recipes into Pepper Plate, which would then generate a shopping list. So I could go through Pepper Plate and pick the recipes I wanted to use for Meal Mentor for that week. And I have my calendar that I use every week. I sit down and I plan out the meals for the week based on what kind of a week it is for us, if we're busy, if I have a lot of time to prepare on the weekend or not. And I'm not afraid of just going ahead and using a baked potato with some steamed broccoli and some hummus if I need to. If it's just a crazy situation, my tool for success is planning ahead and always having at least the next meal ready, if not at least a day or two. So if that has to be a baked potato with broccoli and hummus, then so be it, but I'm staying on plan. And so now I really, very rarely do I print out the whole week and use it as is. I usually, I'm usually a couple of weeks behind sometimes, and I'll pick favorites and, based on, again, on how much time I have to cook, what I'm feeling like eating. And I save the things that I know my family will not like, that I love. Things with maybe olives or like Beth's feta dressing. And I'll take those for lunches. I'll make those for me so that I get to enjoy those foods. But I know my family doesn't want those. And then I'll save other things for all of us.
Wow, it's incredible. I love it. It's like you're saving things for you. You've got this stuff figured out really well. It's incredible. I love it. I love the stay on plan. I really, really love that phrase, stay on plan no matter what. You know,
Stay
it's
on
just,
plan no matter what, but then be gentle if life intervenes.
yeah.
It's I'm trying not to be so rigid, but I also, staying on plan is how I lost it all. And like you said, and Lindsay says, that's what I need to do to keep it off. So I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can stay on plan and be like, because it's kind of funny because it's almost like a motivational mantra of sorts, but like you can still be, kind to yourself if you mess up, right? And that's the thing. It's not, this isn't like overbearing, right? It's just like,
Right.
Yeah.
And someone just recently said in the Facebook group, I don't know exactly how it was said, but it was basically you only need to it's your next meal. Like you can get back on plan with your next meal. So if something happened and you've been off plan, it's no sweat. Your next meal is your next chance to be back on plan. So I thought that was a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way to think of it. So I know we've talked a lot about things that could maybe help somebody who's just getting started with a plant-based diet or meal mentor or whatever. Is there any other tips that you think you might have to help somebody just getting started?
Don't be overwhelmed. It can be very overwhelming especially if you're getting started from something that's not already vegan and plant-based. So if you're already vegan and plant-based, I think it just makes your life so much easier because now you have the recipes in the shopping list. But if you are coming from a diet that's not vegan or plant-based, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and just keep trying. Talk to people in the forums. Talk to people on the Facebook group. Ask any question. No question is too little or too silly. Ask away. People are very generous with sharing what they know, and just keep trying. And if it does feel overwhelming, one of the strategies I will use if I'm feeling overwhelmed is just pick 2 recipes, make one for dinners and one for lunches, and then I'm set for 4 days. And all I had to do was make 2 different recipes, and it produced 4 lunches and 4 dinners, and that was it. So if you don't have to make 7 different meals on a weekend. You can just take it slow, choose 2 things, and then you're good for 4 days. Obviously, you're not feeding your family that food. Those are your meals. But just do whatever you need to do to make it work for you, and we're here to support you.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I think that's like the perfect thing I think somebody who comes to this diet and to Meal Mentor needs to hear. So so the one last question I have is, who should we interview next?
So that's really hard for me to choose one person. I have to say I'm loving this whole thing. Seeing Natasha last week was so exciting for me. I had kind of thought about maybe the other Aimee. I'm
Okay.
Aime, Aimee.
Okay.
Marina and Deborah and Heather were other people I had
Wonderful.
thought I would love to hear from.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And we're not asking you to pick a favorite, really. It's just like, hey, who else do you want to hear from?
Right.
It's like more
I'd
than
love
one
to
is
hear from
welcome.
everybody.
Yeah. So yeah. So we totally want more than one person, more than one recommendations if you have it. So, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate all your insights and everything you've shared. I mean, I really hope and think that this is going to help people. And if you guys are watching and you haven't liked or commented and asked a question, please do, because we'll follow up after this video is done being live and answer any questions you have.
Sure.
And we're here to share these stories so that everybody can get the results that they need. And because this is a lifestyle change, it's a lifelong journey to eating healthier and eating. And if you got to lose weight, then that's something that's really, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of focus and a lot of discipline. And I think it's not said enough about how important the habits are, and also getting, like you had said so many times so wonderfully, Aimee, that like it's about kind of continuing on. It's like that next meal you get right back on it. And
Right, absolutely.
yeah, so
Yep.
thank you very much, Aimee, and we loved having you, and this was fantastic. And I intend to bring people back, and kind of continue to this journey. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.